Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, June 24th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It's not what anyone wants to hear, and it's raising serious concerns. State officials announcing that California has set a single-day record for coronavirus cases again. Today, San Diego County reported 332 new cases, the highest number of positives we've seen locally yet. 6 more people also died from the virus. Supervisors said that the county has not hit any new triggers to revisit the stay-at-home order and that it's not yet revisiting its phased reopening plan.
Our message to the public is very clear. The sense of community that we brought together in the beginning of this, out of a sense of action to slow the spread, is the same spirit that we need to summon now as we move through the reopening phase. And that is the spirit of commitment, and that is the spirit of each and every one of us doing our part to try and slow the spread of coronavirus.
Governor Gavin Newsom revealed that California had more than 7,000 positive new tests for COVID-19 on Tuesday. The state also saw the largest single-day number cases since the beginning of the pandemic. The rate of positive tests is now at 5%, while the total number of hospitalizations in the state has risen 29% over the past 14 days.
We cannot continue to do what we have done over the last number of weeks. Many of us, understandably, developed a little cabin fever. Some, I would argue, have developed a little amnesia. Others have just, frankly, taken down their guard.
Governor Newsom stressed the need for Californians to continue wearing masks while in public and avoid large gatherings, even among extended family. The governor also said that it's up to counties to comply with the conditions that were set for safely reopening. He said that state money set aside for relief efforts would be contingent on counties following those state guidelines. The COVID numbers aren't just rising in California. Though their new case numbers dropped today, Arizona notched a new high for hospitalizations on Tuesday. 88% of the state's ICU beds are in use for COVID-19 and other patients. KPBS reporter John Carroll looks at concerns Arizonans traveling here could have on the fight against COVID in California.
Tourists visiting San Diego County primarily get here in one of two ways. They fly in or they drive. A good portion of tourist traffic on Interstate 8 is coming from Arizona, and when it comes to COVID-19, our neighbor to the east is in deep trouble. In Yuma, they've seen their COVID cases jump 300% in less than a month. The situation isn't much better in either Phoenix or Tucson, and that brings up an uncomfortable question. What about Arizonans making the drive west on I-8? So now, two competing concerns are coming into focus. The need for San Diego's tourism economy to rebound, and the desire for all of us to avoid contracting COVID-19. The problem is, are those Arizona tourists bringing disease with their dollars?
I think there's not a definitive way forward because there's really these two forces that are in conflict with each other.
Carl Winston heads up San Diego State's School of Hospitality and Tourism Management. He says places like Hawaii and, as of midnight tonight, the tri-state area of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut have all instituted 14-day quarantines for people visiting from states that are experiencing spikes in COVID. But he's not sure that would work here.
I think they can legislate away, John, but I'm not sure they can enforce. And it's a real conundrum for society.
At this afternoon's county news conference, I asked whether officials here are concerned about people driving over from Arizona and possibly bringing COVID with them. The answer? Anything that would be done about that would have to come from the state. John Carroll, KPBS News.
San Diego police officers are now required to attempt de-escalation practices when dealing with the public and to step in if another officer is using excessive force. Here's KPBS reporter Claire Tregeser.
This is a policy that will help make sure that what happened in Minneapolis does not happen here in San Diego.
San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer announced 2 new changes to San Diego Police Department policy. One requires officers to step in if they see another officer using excessive force.
The actions of one officer can impact all officers. The actions of one officer can impact all communities. So if the actions of one officer go too far, every officer has a vested interest in making sure that it does not.
The second creates a standalone de-escalation policy.
Now, the department has separate, expanded, and standalone policies that don't just suggest de-escalation, they require it. De-escalation steps include things like creating a buffer zone between an officer and a subject to help reduce tensions, or calling on specialized resources such as the Psychiatric Emergency Response Team.
San Diego Police Chief David Nislight spoke highly of the policy and says the police union is on board.
This new de-escalation policy, I believe, is the most robust or one of the most robust policies in this nation.
Other departments, including Berkeley and Baltimore, already have similar policies requiring police to attempt de-escalation first. Berkeley is also now adding requirements that officers step in to stop excessive force. Bishop William Benson with the Total Deliverance Worship Center says there is still more work to be done.
Community, your voices have been heard. We know you asking for much more, and we know there's a lot of hard work that needs to go into this. But this has to be celebrated as us going forward.
Community advocate Khalid Alexander says the new policy is not enough. The police department must also work to improve its relationship with communities of color.
First, acknowledge the harm that you've done in the community, and then maybe we can begin to have conversations with the community. The reason why they escalate things and the reason why they don't use it is because they always think everything that they do is safe and reasonable when they kill people with their guns.
Chief Nislight did not put a timeline on the new training, except to say that it will begin soon. Claire Tregeser, KPBS News.
The state superintendent is organizing a task force to study the role and impact of police on California school campuses. Federal data shows a disproportionate number of arrests of minority students in the San Diego Unified School District. 66% of arrests are of Black or Hispanic students, even though they only make up 56% of the school population. State Superintendent Tony Thurmond said he wants to look into that issue specifically.
To make sure that any police officer who is on campus is someone who wants to be on that campus, who's chosen to be there, not just having been assigned, and that there'll be training for them in implicit bias and in de-escalation and in understanding youth development.
San Diego County is no stranger to police-related controversy on campuses. In 2016, a fight at Lincoln High School ended with officers using tasers and pepper spray on students. In 2018, an officer slammed a student at Helix High onto the ground. That student sued. A Change.org petition is calling for the San Diego Unified School District to close its district police department, saying it creates a toxic environment. Hundreds of University of California employees, including here in San Diego, held demonstrations today to denounce a wave of layoffs.
Fight back! Fight back! Fight back! Fight back! Fight back! Fight back!
Protesters like these at the Hillcrest Medical Center say hundreds of those being laid off are, quote, mostly low-wage people of color. They say this is being done despite the UC system receiving hundreds of millions of dollars in federal coronavirus relief funds and more than $10 billion in unrestricted cash reserves.
They never start at the top, they always start at the bottom. And, you know, we come here day in, day out, we do the work basically. And to know that we can be let go at any time, it's scary, it's sad. We're in the middle of a pandemic. And I was saying earlier, like, you know, they say the hospital is the safest place to work. And, you know, you always have a job. And now it's like we don't know if we'll always have a job.
The UC administration blames the financial shortfall on the pandemic and a reduction in undergrad housing money. The local layoffs include some 200 food service workers at UC San Diego. Play ball, that's the word from Major League Baseball. As for what that means to the Padres, the fans, workers, and nearby businesses, well, we sent KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman to find out.
So there is going to be a baseball season after all. Major League Baseball is telling us that the season will start on July 23rd or the 24th. Today here in downtown San Diego, Padre players already out there taking batting practice at Petco Park. Now, if you're wondering why, that's because spring training is going to be held here at Petco Park. The Padres telling us players will report for spring training on July 1. You can see people out here at the park already out here checking out the Padres players, the first glimpse they're seeing of them in months. Now, Padres officials telling us, though, people won't be able to be inside to watch the games.
Trying to make sure that everybody understands the importance of, following, any kind of measure we can to limit your exposure, limit your risk.
Even though there won't be any fans inside the stadium during games, many are just excited at the thought of baseball coming back.
I wish we could be in there because we're season ticket holders, so it's been miserable with all this COVID going on. Like, it's just been stressful, nothing but working. We can't really go out. So now that we get the chance, we bring our sons since they opened the park.
I'm excited about it. Hopefully the players are happy with it too. Hopefully it'll bring something to the game, to the community locally.
162 games is a normal season, but as of now, there's plans for just a 60-game season. Business owners near Petco Park are also welcoming news of the shortened season.
Downtown's it's been pretty slow.
While restaurants aren't expecting the usual game day rush, eateries like Social Tap are hoping games will give people a reason to just come downtown.
We got a great spot here that's as close as you can get to the ball game, so I feel that if people are going to come down and want to be kind of part of that energy and that buzz, we're a prime spot for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Petco Park for tonight's game featuring the San Francisco Giants and your San Diego Padres.
Speaking of vibe,
I'm that voice you hear from the moment you walk in the gate all the way through first pitch and all the way through the last out.
Padres public address announcer Alex Miniak has been waiting for the return of baseball.
I'm very excited. I know things are going to be different than any other season I've ever done before. Still a little wait and see there.
Even though no fans are expected inside the stadium, Miniak still wants to get back behind the mic. He says it's all about the atmosphere.
We should try to keep everything as close to normal as we can for those that are playing.
That means we could be hearing more of this.
Fernando Tatis Jr. I can't wait to get back to saying that.
Padres officials say they're still working on figuring out what the game day and broadcast experience on TV will be like. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Passenger traffic remains dramatically low at San Diego's largest airport, but there are indications some travelers are returning. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson says airport officials are working hard to reassure a flying public that's worried about COVID-19.
People are starting to return to San Diego's biggest airport, and they're getting a lot of reminders, like these on elevators, about safety in the age of COVID-19.
Of course, the doors open right away. We have the floor decals that also encourage social distancing.
Masks are required when people are indoors, and nearly everyone complies. And there are plenty of stickers encouraging hand washing and social distancing.
And we understand that when you're in the airport, there are things that you have to touch, whether it's a kiosk when you're checking in or a handrail on the escalator. And so we have our cleaning crews coming around on a constant basis, cleaning all the high touch points.
Passengers have been flying more of late. Marketing Vice President Hampton Brown says airport passenger traffic was down 95% in mid-April because of the coronavirus. Current numbers are down 80% from a year ago. Activity at ticket counters backs that up. Things are not crowded, but there is steady traffic.
We have approximately 30% of the flights we do in a normal month, but airlines like Southwest continue to add more capacity as they see booking patterns increase.
Airport officials are also optimistic about surveys that show that more passengers may be coming San Diego's way because there's pent-up demand. People are interested in visiting San Diego's beaches. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
And one of the world's busiest airports now has technology that can detect fevers as passengers walk through terminals. LAX has set up 2 thermal imaging scanners, which can identify passengers or workers with a fever of 100.4 degrees or higher. If someone has an elevated temperature, a medical professional will recommend they not travel, but passengers will not be stopped from traveling by the airport. It was big, it was powerful, but it did little damage. A 5.8 earthquake hit at 10:40 this morning in a remote area of central California. The epicenter was in the Owens Valley near the eastern flank of the Sierra Nevada. Residents in Ridgecrest had some minor damage. The quake, though, was felt from Sacramento to Orange County. It looks like we're in for more warm summer weather over the next few days, but a cool down is on the horizon. Mark Mancuso has your forecast.
Here's a look at your weather headlines. We'll start you off talking about our weather conditions next couple of days. Well, looks like our seasonal weather will continue, and that means little day-to-day changes. We'll see the night and morning clouds giving way to some afternoon sunshine. Changes will start to come here over the weekend. Sunday will be a little bit cooler, especially in the mountains and in the deserts. It'll be turning cooler, and it'll be quite breezy as well. Taking a look at tonight, well, here come the clouds again, back to the coastal areas. San Diego 65, Oceanside 64. El Cajon drops to 64 and Ramona 57. Mild night, Borrego Springs and Mount Laguna is down to 60 degrees. Looking at the Thursday weather, very little change. Onshore flow, and with that onshore flow, the clouds giving way to sunshine. Interior sections, lots of heat. And the forecast does reveal that temperatures will be rising to 109 Borrego Springs. Campos at 88. Feeling good here in Ramona, El Cajon, Escondido, low to mid 80s, mid 70s again in Oceanside, and some lower 70s in San Diego with clouds giving way to some sun. Friday, well, still pretty hot here in the interior. Little change at the coast, but over the weekend, Sunday, trough comes right down into our area. So Sunday into Monday, it will be turning cooler. Here's the forecast. Clouds giving way to some sun the next couple of days, little change, but then a little bit cooler from Sunday into Monday. As we head our way inland, clouds and sun, pleasant temperatures, and then turning cooler Sunday into Monday. In the mountains, you can see the temperature is dropping off into the mid-60s by Monday and getting quite breezy. And in the deserts, we'll see some change here too. It's hot, then not as hot, and we'll be looking at the temperatures, the mid-90s by Monday. For KBBS News, I am meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
Today, the San Diego County Board of Supervisors rejected a controversial Lilac Hills housing development. Developers were looking for permission to build a master-planned community of 1,700 homes north of Valley Center. County staff and fire officials urged rejecting the project because it was in a fire-prone region and evacuation routes were not adequate. Voters also rejected the plan in 2016. Supervisor Jim Desmond was the only supervisor who voted for the project to move forward. Chula Vista officials have doused plans to hold its annual fireworks show and other 4th of July events due to the coronavirus. Also shelved will be any block parties as well as the annual Firefighters Foundation pancake breakfast. City fire officials also warning the public that setting off any type of firework is against the law. In the past month, San Diego teenager Marlene Herrera has turned 18, graduated from high school, and decided who she's going to vote for in her first presidential election. She's done all of this while dealing with the enormous stress of providing childcare for her cousins and figuring out how to attend college virtually. As part of the collaboration with the world's Every 30 Seconds, which looks at the young Latino electorate in the U.S., KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler shares her story.
A group of 20 people surrounds Marlene Herrera out in a yard. They're mostly social distancing. The crowd is singing, urging her to not lose momentum.
It's been over 2 months, so I was like, oh my God, I get to see you again, I get to hug you, and I was like, are you okay with hugging?
Marlene is celebrating her 18th birthday and her high school graduation. They both fell on the same week that San Diego County began to relax its coronavirus restrictions on gatherings. She's just happy to finally have everyone in one place again. Finally, the piñata breaks. Marlene tells me she's had a lot of frustration to work through over the past few months. First, the pandemic hit, and then she had to complete her senior year from home. During that time, she's been living in a crowded house with 5 kids under the age of 9. Marlene says, in this new reality, she and many of her friends feel powerless.
A lot of us, we kind of got to the point where we burst into tears.
Marlene has been thinking a lot about mental health, and in college this fall, she plans to major in psychology. The mental health impacts of the coronavirus pandemic, especially on young adults, will be felt for years to come, says Tina Casola. She's a San Diego-based family therapist who specializes in trauma and the long-term impacts of stress.
We're going to be paying for this for a long time because the betrayals or the feelings of being left behind, those are going to last for people.
Casola thinks that while Marlene's age group is far more supportive of one another than previous generations, it's going to be up to older people to model how to get through this.
We have to figure out ways of getting out into our communities and giving them support to work through this time, even though none of us have the answer, right? We don't have a blueprint for this. We're going to kind of make it up as we go, but they need to benefit from the seasoning that some of us have had in order to kind of put these things together and then be able to take care of themselves.
The pandemic and its mental toll are not the only thing on Marlene's mind. She's grown up always worried about her family's finances. It was a huge relief when her mother received a stimulus check.
I think that was, amazing, especially, it's a big family here.
Marlene's mother had been briefly laid off from working at a law office, but she was rehired after her office got a government loan. Still, Marlene wishes more had been done during the stay-at-home order to prepare for reopening businesses safely.
For us, we can't afford to not work. We still got to pay rent. That's not going to stop. Right. You still got to pay for food, and that's not going to stop. It adds up. So it's kind of hard when people are like, oh, just stay home. And it's like, you can't do that. I don't want to come home and, be the one who infects my family for some reason,
The government's response, or lack of response, has Marlene thinking about how politics directly impact her life. After her first choice for president, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, dropped out of the race in April, she was undecided on who she'd support in the general election.
If I could vote and for some way it could count for something, and I'm hoping it counts for something, I'm going to do it.
More recently, she says the protests over the killing of George Floyd and other acts of police violence against black men and women have had an impact.
I think I'm leaning towards Biden. Not that I'm entirely happy with him either.
To her, President Donald Trump crossed a line when he sent in the National Guard during the Black Lives Matter protests.
You're just adding more fire. You're adding more fire to fire. And how is that okay? I think we need a change. As much as people want to say, Trump is good, but it's I think it's time for someone new. You can't still be living in that time where it's kind of what is he going to say? What is he going to trigger? We've had so many scares with him.
Marlene says she's ready for a government that doesn't scapegoat or target minority groups.
It's not even just talking from a Mexican point of view, just a person of color point of view. There's so much oppression that we've had, and you see it, and, we're seeing it a lot right now. I just want a government that I don't feel like is working against me.
Looking ahead to a long summer of helping take care of her cousins and trying to safely see friends when she can, I asked her what she would change about this year if she had a magic wand.
I want to be selfish with this question.
Be selfish.
My senior year, because I worked, or not even just me, everyone worked so hard for 12 years straight of our, whole lives in school, only for it to kind of be everything a lot of us were looking forward to, we weren't allowed to do it.
Marlene says this will forever mark her generation.
It's still always going to be something that we have where it's we didn't get a grad night. That's just, my whole thing that's always going to stay with me. It's always going to be on my mind. It's always, even when I tell my kids later on, if I have kids, they're going to ask, hey, how was your prom? Well, I never had one. I'm sorry. Can't help you with that.
Max Rivlin-Adler, KPBS News.
Affirmative action has been banned since 1996, but now California voters will decide whether race can be considered during hiring, contracting, and academic admissions. Today, the state Senate voted to repeal the amendment that banned, quote, preferential treatment based on race, sex, color, ethnicity, and national origin. California is one of 8 states that have banned affirmative action policies. The move to repeal the policy will be presented to voters in November.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, whistleblowers testify about the increasing politicization of the Justice Department. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's another look at today's top stories. San Diego County set a new record daily high for COVID-19 cases. 332 tests came back positive yesterday, and 6 people died from the virus. County supervisors said San Diego has not hit any new triggers to revisit the stay-at-home order. And San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer announced 2 new changes to San Diego Police Department policy. One requires officers to step in if they see another officer using excessive force. The second creates a standalone de-escalation policy. There will be a baseball season after all. It will start July 23rd or 24th, although fans won't be allowed inside Petco Park for Padres games. Teams will play a shortened season of 60 games. The Padres say they are still working on what the game day and broadcast experience on TV will be like. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.